where we come face to face with God's work in the world for our good. Join host Jason McKnight as we explore practical issues of community, theology, and leadership in everyday life.
Hey, welcome everybody. We're glad you're with us. I'm Jason McKnight. I'm here with Ben Hendricks, and we have a very special guest today, Jamal Hyman. Welcome, Jamal.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Jamal, before we really unpack why we have you here in the hot seat here in the studio, we have to talk, and maybe we should quiz Jamal on this, but Ben, this is our 100th episode.
It's amazing. And they've all been good.
They've all been good. I mean, you know, you have favorite children. Well, you're not supposed to. You have favorite children. I
For
don't.
sure, yeah.
Do you have a favorite episode?
The one that we just did that hasn't been released yet.
101.
Yeah.
You know, I think we should, judging by views and listens and that kind of stuff, I can tell you what their favorite episodes are.
Why is it none of the ones I'm in?
It's the ones that Susan is in.
Yeah.
She always gets high.
Yeah.
Also, you know, every once in a while Susan will do one on a parenting book she's read. And not that we make her do parenting, but she's just good at that. Kirk Bagnall.
Okay.
Remember we had him on
Yeah.
here? He did a great job, and people love that. Kyle,
Because he networks.
he networks. It's true. He sent it out, and everybody loved it.
Yeah.
Kyle Ike on leadership and Air Force.
Well.
Joan Perry, Amy Gannett. We've had some great folks on this podcast.
And then there's us.
There's us. We just keep the lights on, you know. Anyway, it's been a blast. Thank you for being part of this, everyone out there in the Encounter Grace listening community. We love it. Well, if you read the show notes, you know we're going to talk about why should a church today in North Carolina be involved in church planting or be involved in anything like this. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to say a little bit of what Grace's journey has been in super, super short, and then why it is that we're involved now at this time in church planting, and some reasons for why church planting is part of God's plan for this generation of our countrymen, our fellow citizens, people who don't know the Lord, to meet Jesus. And then we're going to not spend too long on all of this stuff because we want to get Jamal talking and sharing a little bit of his story. Jamal, we cannot wait to hear that.
Oh, it's going to be a joy.
It'll be a joy
Because
to
you
share.
guys are here.
Yeah, well, you know, we just try. About 7 years ago, 2016, the Lord began in earnest to lead Grace into church planting, but with a different, not about church planting, but about focusing on church planters, training and sending husbands and wives and then core teams and making sure they're resourced, because we don't have a vision that there must be X number of churches or these cities we're going to tackle. We rather, God has led us to say, let's invest in the people and let God lead them and fulfill through them what he wants to do. And I think that's been a joy. And actually, as a body, we've adopted this. I mean, in those beginning years, in fact, 2016 was before you came. I think you were 2017.
Yeah, right there, yeah.
Because you came in with Austin and Amy.
Yeah.
You guys came a week apart.
He got the good office.
No, he came a week early.
Wow.
I took the good office.
Just to do that.
I'm telling you. And then we turned around and put you on the bus to the camp. But anyway, let's not talk about
That's a
that.
different podcast.
But Austin and Amy came and they developed. They really, Austin worked so well at developing the church planter and residency program, because our point is not churches, but planters. And so now we get to spend a year and a half, even 2 years with different church planters before they go out, or at least the year or so before they go out, and then transition them out. It's amazing, you know, in Paul's missionary journeys in Acts, they weren't stadium evangelism. It wasn't compassion evangelism, you know, an earthquake happens and so they go in with the doctors. It was planting churches. It was starting in the synagogues or in the marketplaces and then planting churches. And the first missionary journeys always left a church in its wake. And I think that's a really good thing. So Grace also, God has opened our eyes to, here's why we want to be part of planting churches or want to be part of God's work in our generation of planting churches. And so I remember we've been talking about these 7 different reasons why Grace is now part of planting churches and sending church planters. And so Ben, why don't you share some of these reasons with us and see if they're still true? Because we developed these 5, 6, 7 years ago, and maybe they are, maybe they're not, but I think they are.
Yeah, and so the first one I think is one of the most powerful ones, and it's just the reality that new churches reach new people. Too often, we often ask the question. I mean, I don't, of course, but so many other people in our community, right, are asking, like, do we need the church plant? Why, with so many churches in the South, what's the point? Why can't we just why can't new believers go to there? The reality is most of them are not. And statistics show that churches younger than 3 years old see 3 times as many people meet the Lord in a given year as churches over 15 years.
I mean, that's huge. Say that again.
That's amazing. Statistics show that churches younger than 3 years old see 3 times as many people meet the Lord in a given year as churches that are over 15 years old.
So we need to compete with Jamal. We got to get more converts than him.
The last year, that makes me nervous.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, because we just see this, like, new groups attract new people, and they grow into new leadership. Like, I mean, Grace is an extremely kingdom-minded church, but sometimes there's just less opportunity because of the maturity here at Grace. In some of these churches, like in a new church and a new church plant, there's a necessity there that may not be there in the church that's over 15 years. And that creates this I think like a fertile soil for people to grow.
Yeah.
And for new believers to come in. I mean, more and more people in our country are just not affiliated with any religion or denomination. And the truth is, we need to reach them.
Mm-hmm.
And new churches reach new people. And so, I mean, that's just a good enough reason to plant right there.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's a whole bunch of other reasons too.
Well, and reason number 2 is that all through our lives, people need people. Like every one of us life is a team sport. God said in Genesis 2, not good that man is alone. I mean, it works for marriage, but it's actually life. And let's think of the ways that people need people. On the one hand, a new convert needs a nursery. So if there's evangelistic rallies and people, make a decision for Jesus, what happens next? They need somewhere to be. They need a family, a church, a nursery, a hospital, a growth. So that's why people need people. So we need more churches. What else? Ongoing discipleship takes others. I can't grow for Jesus. There's a reason nobody goes out to the desert anymore like the desert fathers in the 300s and 400s. That was an era because only a few of them went because you need each other to grow in Jesus. So ongoing discipleship takes others. And then here's the third thing. People need people in all of life. The third little subpoint, the lost hunger for community. I mean, the lost hunger for the kind of community that the Holy Spirit knits together, where it's not all at your expense, all the jokes, and where your gifting compliments when my family's in need, and people don't have that. It's dog-eat-dog world out there. And so people need people in all of life. Well, the lost hunger for community. So that's just another great place is that churches, we need more churches, smaller groups. This church and all churches we plant are based on small groups, and that's just a place for people to be family.
I think one that is, it's near and dear to my heart because, I like math, but I think, again, as we're kingdom-minded people, like we all want to see the kingdom of God grow. We want to see churches expand. More churches pop up and expand because we've seen the need for it. And just as I was talking about earlier, like that's the best way, most effective way to reach people. And so a third reason why we plant churches is the exponential potential. I love the way J.D. Greer says it. He says that we're content to add while God wants to multiply. So, let's just think of it in numbers. So, over the next couple of years, let's say Grace blows up, and we go from a body of 350 or so to 1,000. People would start writing
that is
books.
blowing it. Yeah, that's right.
Like, what are you doing? The content would be there. 10 years from now, 5 years, whatever, 1,000 people here. But what if we started planting churches? And let's say we plant one church every 18 months, and then each of them does too. And at the end of that 10 years, we have not one big church, but 64 churches. each of them with 250 people. I mean, 64 times 250, that's around 16,000 people.
Are you doing that math in your head?
Absolutely.
Wow, yes. Yeah,
Well,
huge.
without a calculator. That's honest and not honest all at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
By planting churches, we can grow exponentially more than we ever could if we just remained where we are.
Mm-hmm.
What a great reason to plant.
Yeah, I mean, that is the other great reason to plant, because it's not only about numbers, but that's a great one.
Yeah.
And that's compelling. But the fourth reason that Grace leans into is that when we plant churches, God has to raise up new leaders. Yeah. And this is to your point of sometimes churches that are established, like new churches see new converts, but sometimes churches that are established, they don't have roles for new leaders.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're a bad church or cliquish or anything. It's just that, gosh, all the things are full. But a new church takes, all the things are empty. So worship leaders and nursery workers and helpers in the cafe and all these kinds of things. And it's just exciting and delightful. And honestly, it's that same exponential principle. Like if Grace Fellowship takes 150 leaders to keep it moving, well, 1,000 churches take 150,000 leaders to keep it moving. And so let's go. Instead of Grace Fellowship just being one big church with the same 150 leaders. I just think that's a great thing. God raises up new leaders. And you say, am I ready to lead? Regular folks may say that. Like Jamal, you're probably saying that. I mean, I say that about 3 days a week. Really ready to lead? But God always shows up because he raises up leaders. We just keep clinging to Jesus and holding forth the gospel and the word of life. And he always shows up. Doesn't mean we never make mistakes, but he always shows up.
In that same vein is kind of the fifth reason, which is that more people grow more in lean or younger churches, which I think just makes sense, like if you really think about it. Because, I mean, I wonder how many people here at Grace ever think about like how things are spent or just the finances or the ministry that's going on or what's needed because we have such good leadership or because things have been run so smoothly for so long. But in some of in a new church plant where things are lean and when you come into the church and it's, well, we don't have someone who does this. We need someone who's and we need this and we need that. It's always an invitation to step up or to step in. Not every church, not the church that's older than 15 years may not have that. Right. But that church that's a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years older, whatever, like they need that. Mm-hmm. And just as you're saying, God always pours more of himself into the person, pouring more of themselves out for him. Like
that's good.
It's just an invitation in. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, the sixth of the seven is this, that why are we as a healthy church in Eastern North Carolina, in the Bible Belt of all places, why are we part of a church planting movement, and a vital one at that, is this. Here's the reason. The church in the United States is no longer a chaplain to our culture. It's a mission force in a culture that doesn't know Jesus. If there was a time when the U.S. was a quote-unquote Christian culture, well, then the church simply needed to hold its hand and help it along. And so you have a lot of churches just doing a chaplaincy role. I'm not sure that was ever true, but I think that is what a lot of people thought of, especially people saying, we don't need to plant more churches or one on every corner. But a mission is something you would send overseas to foreign fields where they don't know of Jesus, to pagans, the 1040 window, unreached people groups. But friends, if Christendom is over, then we're all on mission here and now in our corners, in our neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And so we don't want our strong, worshiping, healthy club of a church just seeing a few hundred of us and pretty excited because, 5 more people came. If there are countless millions of our neighbors exiting this life into a Christless eternity in our own country, in our own state. So let's reach them. And how do we do that? Well, Paul planted churches on all his missionary trips. What's the seventh reason? What's the last reason we're going to talk about today, Ben? Yeah,
it's that Grace's DNA is primed to be able to do this. A couple key ways is just our authentic relationships. Grace is not about Simon Says Christianity. Jesus says jump, Jesus says go, and we just do it because, he said so. No, this is a church of people who are authentically motivated and in relationship with Jesus, and so authentically and have authentic relationships with the people around them. Secondly, would be just, I think, the house church structure in general. I mean, so much of the heart and soul of the body here at Grace, it's decentralized. There's not one person. It's not just you going, hey, and here's what you're going to do, and here's how you're going to study it, and here's how long it's going to be. But they're small pockets of believers who are together. They take care of themselves, and it becomes a place where leadership grows. Third, our sacrifice for others. I mean, this is just a body that gives, serves, and desires to see the Lord move. A leadership culture, we want to matter and make a difference, and we're willing to sacrifice for it. And also just a huge, huge heart for mission. I mean, I think this is why God gave this to this vision and this mission to the people here of Grace. Like it started, yes, with elders, I believe. I mean, but that vision has not been a push uphill, but it's just made its way through the body as they understood what it was, they understood what it meant, and they got excited about what this could mean for the kingdom. Grace's DNA is just primed to plant churches.
And it was very fun at the beginning as several in the body said, now tell me again, I want to think it's a great idea. I'm not sure I do. They were honest as they wrestled, but they were open as they wrestled. Like nobody kind of said, I'm taking my marbles and leaving to another sandbox kind of thing. But they were like, I don't understand. Are we really? Do we? And how about? And it was just great when they leaned into questions and asked that kind of stuff. Well, that's why Grace is doing it now. We got sitting over here with us Jamal, and Jamal, why on earth are you being a church planter? Let's talk about Jamal. Now, we are recording this in the end of April, and it's going to be probably another few weeks before it's out. But it's 10 months ago since you moved here. I think it was the end of June you guys moved here. We had you come in before VBS.
Oh, yeah.
Sabrina and Jamal and Judah and Selah. And amazingly, Shiloh is on her way. We are excited to meet her. Jamal, we are so excited that you have been led by God to this body of believers and to this vision of church planting and to our residency. And now let's get you talking. We're not going to talk the rest of the time. What on earth makes you want to be a church planter?
Oh, well, first, I just say thank you. Thank you for welcoming me in and allowing me to be a part of this podcast, but just sharing my heart and my journey as well, and why. Jason and Ben, y'all did a great job of kind of explaining and helping not only others understand, but me too along the journey and seeing this DNA happen at Grace. And so why. I'm originally from Plymouth, North Carolina, and I moved away to DC area for 22 years. And I've always had a heart to come back to Eastern North Carolina. Just seeing a need of gospel DNA, as well as house church like we do here, as well as, like you said, sacrifice for others and intentional relationships. And seeing that done here, it was just a great time to come back and kind of plant our family here to be able to duplicate or multiply that DNA in other areas. And so that's why we were like, yes, we were excited about Grace and excited about planting when we found out everything and going through the process with you guys.
I mean, he grew up in Plymouth, so that's way out in the, I shouldn't say in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I've been there, and it's pretty, but it is out there.
It is.
Near what river or what body of water?
Albemarle Sound.
The Albemarle Sound. Yeah. See, I don't even know that. But I love anything with water. So, yes. I love that. And I remember fishing up there with Wynn Edwards up at somewhere where the fish were always biting. When you go with Wynn, they always bite. But you lived in D.C. Why don't you want to plant in D.C.? Why don't you want to plant somewhere else, or Northern Maryland, or something like that? Like, why Eastern North Carolina, but not in Plymouth?
Right. So Eastern North Carolina, because I've always felt like people leave Eastern North Carolina and never want to return. So they leave and they will get their education, they will find their career, but then they don't bring it back to the east part of Raleigh. And so I just always wanted to come back and be a part of that solution of doing that, of coming back and returning. And I had family who just said, hey, like, it's a need here. And so as we came back to visit and being a part of just family reunions and seeing the churches, we just seen a need, and we wanted to return and be a part of the solution as much as we could. So that was a huge part for us. Yeah.
We did the church planting residency seminar we do every Tuesday. Yesterday we began talking about elders.
Yes.
There's a great group of 8 guys. Austin Gannett comes in, as well as several other guys. And Jamal, tell us, how have those more formal learning times been for you? I mean, we've been doing this since September or end of August.
Yeah. It's been great. Just not only the content, but also being around other men who are on the journey that you are looking forward to, or at the same pace that you are. And so it's just been a joy to learn, talk, sit, grow, ask questions, be vulnerable. All those dynamics has helped me grow and flourish, and not just the training as far as content with just church planning, but just sitting at Grace and learning skills and learning just how to simple things like budgeting and learning those type of tools that we can take, not just for church planning, but like you were saying earlier, caring about the planter and the family. We can use that in life far more than just with church. But it's an addition having it for church planting. And so it's just been a joy sitting with you guys and growing and learning and being at elders meeting and watching the elders on their knees just praying for the body and the flock, and all those have been great formative times for us.
Yeah, it is good. And then leading. I mean, you're leading a house church. You're leading in a children's ministry on Sunday nights, Club 345, serving in different ways on Sunday mornings. Imagine if he was a house church leader and then everyone fled the house church. We'd be in big trouble with the church plant. That's why we do it.
Yeah. How many elders on that one?
And Sabrina, how's she doing?
She's doing well. She's doing well. We are in this phase of pregnancy where we're at the last hill. So I'm like, man. So she's doing good, though. She's doing good.
End of June, right?
End of June.
She is dynamite. I don't know how you got her. I mean, you married up,
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's pivot and talk Abide Bible Church. You bring us up to today. So you've been here for 10 months, and you're still based in Kinston. You live in Kinston. You're here at Grace. Abide is not having public services, and you're still building the core team. Tell us where it's going to be, what it's going to be like, a little bit about the journey to this point.
Yeah. So Abide Bible Church will be in Goldsboro, North Carolina, is where God was leading us with just counseling from the elders as well as others in the congregation, just hearing their hearts. And so Goldsboro is where God is leading us. And where we are now, we are a gathering core team. And so we have 9 committed members to the core team, which is really exciting. And what I love, like you guys were saying, how Grace is prime for church planting. All 9 of those members are members of Grace.
I know, we're not going to forgive you.
So they understand the DNA of Grace. They
right.
understand the vision of Grace. And so we get to the joy of taking Grace with us, not just what we've learned, but actually physically with us. And so that is super exciting to be able to have. And so we're developing the core team and hopes in the fall to start a house church. And that will be the first of what someone may consider as a launch. But we are starting off as a house church to develop and to grow. And then from there, our goal is to multiply into 2 house churches. And then we'll start to have conversations about a Sunday morning gathering. And our heart is to move and live and be in the city of Goldsboro. So that's where we are now.
Yeah, if the baby's born at the end of June, you should maybe move the next week.
Right. Yeah. I'll just pack the baby and all that.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I'm joking. The idea that that God is also tapping people on the shoulder at Grace to Go is just an unbelievable thing, because again, it shows the body has buy-in.
Yes.
This isn't just the elder's vision or some pastor's vision. It's the body. Like the Lord's moving in our midst, and I mean, it's a beautiful thing, and it reminds all of us that we never can keep our hands closed. We always have to keep our hands open. I mean, there's been more than one time that I wanted to keep all our church planters in house because we love them all.
And I love that. I just find this encouraging because you say 9, and I didn't realize it was 9, but I can like think of them, right? And because I know them, like they're not going because they're like, Grace. Like we're gonna finally we're gonna get it right now. Like they're going because of a heart for grace and seeing the good, like the good core DNA, and they've seen the fruit of that. But they go, and Goldsboro needs one. And we see Jamal leading us to do that. Like that's such an encouraging thing. Like this isn't, I mean, it's planted out of necessity because God's behind it and he's pushing it forward, but it's not planted out of just like, I don't know, frustration.
Right.
Like I just think that's always a good reminder of this thing. Cause I think so often I just hear people like, well, they left that church because they were frustrated. Oh, they left that church because, and they went to that because, and it's like, no, this is a good thing. It's kind of the J.D. Greer gaining by losing, right? Like ultimately the kingdom gains. I mean, I know some of those names. We really lose here.
I know. But we're going to expect that down the road when you're healthy and, 300 people. I mean, you're going to outstretch, you're going to be bigger than Grace. I'm telling you, because these cities you're going to are bigger than Kinston, and all these church plants are going to be larger, and that's okay. But you better send us back some great people. Jamal, I know you were looking at several different cities, and the Lord, as you mentioned, Goldsboro. It seems to me, Ben, I don't know if you've thought of this, but it seems to me that Jamal, you're super well suited to anywhere you would go. But one of the things that you bring in a culture like Goldsboro, which has that very strong Air Force base, and there's a lot of dynamite pilots and mechanics and folks in the Air Force that are there. And you can't be in the Air Force if you're not high achieving and able to do things and organized and driven. And that's you. Without being kind of crazy, type A or whatever, you're very gentle in your demeanor, but you're extremely organized and quietly driven, and you get things done. And I'm like, well, now the folks in the Air Force that need a place to belong, those that haven't found a home in churches there, or those that aren't believers, they can at least see someone in you that mimics their the environment they kind of know. I mean, that's one of the things I think what we need is retirees to go down to Moorhead, Swansboro, and Newbern to plant churches down there with all the retirees coming down from the north.
I'm waiting on that church planter. I might feel the call now.
Anything else? So you're the other thing I love that they did. So with Carolina Movement, which we love, Carolina Movement on in March, I think they did a statewide prayer day. And we couldn't do it here in Kinston. And you said, oh, we're doing it in Goldsboro. And so here in Goldsboro had, with Carolina Movement, and it's the 25 people that you invited. And I thought that was amazing because God shows up in prayer.
Yeah, that was a great time just to have a core group of people, 25 people coming to pray. We spent about an hour, and it was just exciting, and everyone was just overjoyed with just the potential and just what they see we could do in Goldsboro. And so it was really, really exciting. Really exciting.
Anything else coming up that you need us to know about as you're thinking of Abide? I mean, you kind of talked a little bit about what's coming, but...
Yeah. Well, just house church is the biggest. And I think just continue to pray for that, and just that's the biggest focus. And we want to multiply our house church so that God can continue to be glorified in Goldsboro. So that's the focus right now.
Yeah. I love the way you say, oh, go ahead.
Well, I just think because there's going to be somebody who's listening to this who they've dabbled in church planting, they've heard about it, they've even seen some of these networks or training programs or whatever for church planners. And I think there are going to be people who are going to not understand a little bit of what you just said because of the method by which we lead church planners to plant churches here. Like, because the normal, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, is let's get a whole bunch of people together, let's get a whole bunch of money together, and let's go have one great Sunday and invite everybody to show up, and now we're a church, right? Like, is that the right, is that the model that we kind of see, or that's kind of out there for the most part?
Yeah,
Definitely one of them.
Yeah, it's one of the models that is more common now, whereas grace is more of, let's build a healthy family and culture and DNA through house church, which is a huge core value for us, as well as elders and others. But as you have a house church, you get to massage the DNA into your people. And it may be on a smaller scales, but it's more deep rooted, and people stay longer because they have deep relationships through house church. So I think it's a great way that God has called us to do it here.
Yeah.
Massaging the DNA into the house church. I mean, that's a great way to say it. I mean, it gets right into the tissues of the muscle.
Yeah.
I like it just simply from my perspective, just like it takes so much pressure off.
Yeah.
Because instead of having one Sunday to win people, I mean, you have months of shepherding, of massaging that culture in, where that Sunday you finally launch, it's not a, let's hope something good happens. It's a, this is an outflow of all the good that has already happened.
Yeah.
And it's just like a really intelligent, I think, and a really godly and wise way to go about it.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's a good thing that's worth mentioning, because I don't think that's seems to be the model most people are going with.
But it can be.
But it can be.
And how it works is, Jamal, for you is and this is helpful for listeners, is the partnership development that you have done. So our model, we're not a huge church. We can't fund you personally for months and months and years. So like a campus minister would go on a college campus with Crusade or Navigators or InterVarsity, and they would raise their partnership team to allow them to minister. You have done exactly that. You have raised a partnership team, and that allows you to minister, and you don't have to worry about tithes and offerings for several years, because there are friends and family who have affirmed your vision and are praying for you and are part of it. And I know that's how you're involved with Carolina Movement too. I love this, is that different churches say, wow, that's a vision I want to get behind. And it allows you not to look at, oh no, there's not enough people growing here. There's not enough people coming here so that the giving is growing. You can just say, man, I'm just serving the Lord, and He's bringing it.
Yeah. It confirms what God is doing in your life as you walk the journey as well. So that's been a huge addition to us as we've been through the process.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it confirms it. And then y'all, as Abide, until you have your own elders, you're under Grace's elders. And so there is shepherding and oversight and governance, so that you're not getting into anything crazy. And we as a staff here are highly invested in, your church planner number 5. We're in talks with number 6. I mean, we just want to love you guys and see you flourish for a long term. Jamal, we love it. We're excited. Tell us the verse that drives you. I'm putting you on the spot.
The verse that drives me the most is Psalm 13. It's been just something that has really driven me for so long, of asking the questions like David does, like how long, but then being able to ask the request, and then to be able to just praise God no matter the situation change or not. And so that has been the driving force for me, and so I pray that that's an encouragement for someone else as well.
Excellent. Psalm 13, a great psalm. I thought he was going to say John 15:5 because he named his church Abide. I know he's going to say that later. Like, why didn't I say that? But you've been talking about that. But John 15:5, if we abide in Him, you're on it, man. We love you. Thank you for coming to Grace and Eastern North Carolina and Goldsboro. We can't wait to watch over the next 20 years how God leads through you, your family, and the friends that come and be part of the body.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, and thank you all for listening to us, and let's keep encountering God's grace in the work, his good work in this world for our good and his glory. Take care, guys.
This is a ministry of Grace Fellowship Church in Kinston, North Carolina. Visit gracekinston.org or